Hello everyone, welcome to Diplomatic Brief. This year, the National Day and Mid-Autumn Festival holidays on the mainland are connected, adding to the festive atmosphere. With the holiday already halfway through, big data monitoring from the Ministry of Commerce shows that in the first 4 days of the holiday, sales of key retail and catering enterprises nationwide increased by 3.3% year-on-year. Green and smart consumption has become popular. According to data monitored by the Ministry of Commerce from major e-commerce platforms. In the first 4 days of the holiday, sales of green and organic food increased by 20.1% year-on-year, energy-saving home appliances rose by 19%, smart refrigerators grew by 20.7%, and smart home products also saw a 16.8% increase. Faced with today's prosperity, on the first day of the holiday, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs released a video, using photos and footage to contrast and showcase the tremendous changes and achievements of New China. The first set of images compares the Forbidden City in the past and now. In 1900, the Eight-Nation Alliance marched into the Forbidden City. In 2025, the Palace Museum is bustling with visitors. The second set of images compares Shanghai's past and present. In 1937, under Japanese air raids at Shanghai South Station, a child was crying. In 2025, a young child is interacting with a robot dog. The third set shows the past and present of Shanghai as well. In 1991, Pudong in Shanghai was still under development, but by 2025, Pudong is already lined with skyscrapers. The fourth set of images? That's a comparison between Nanjing's past and present. In 1937, Zhonghua Gate in Nanjing was bombarded by a convoy of Japanese tanks. The other photo shows Nanjing's city skyline in 2025. The fifth set of images compares military parades, specifically the Limala Mountain Cannon and global coverage. The two photos are from the military parade at the founding ceremony on October 1, 1949. The Mountain Artillery Unit was pulled by mules, while at the September 3, 2025 military parade, the Dongfang 5C liquid-fueled intercontinental strategic nuclear missile was on display, with its strike range covering the entire globe. The mainland's ancestors here refer to the golden wheat fields of Xinjiang, symbolizing both hardship and prosperity. In 1970, the houses in Pingzilian village, Shuixigo town, Urumqi, and in 2025, people in Taching city, Xinjiang, would dance after meals. The seventh set of images shows Tibet's golden barley harvest, symbolizing both happiness and abundance. Before the democratic reforms, people lived under the darkness of a feudal serfdom society. In 2025, farmers in the suburbs of Lesao were allocated land. Let's take a look at the comparison of China's technological progress, especially in celebrating a bountiful harvest. In terms of industrial production, it has evolved from manual assembly to intelligent manufacturing. One image shows a car assembly workshop in China in 1993, while another set of images shows a digital factory production line in China in 2025. As for transportation, it has gone from the old green trains to the speed of China today. One picture is of a green train from 1978, and the other set shows the world's fastest high-speed train in 2025. The CR450 has a maximum operating speed of up to 400 km per hour. As for high-speed rail, it has developed from its initial stage to forming the 8 vertical and 8 horizontal network. One image shows China's high-speed rail routes in 2012, and by 2024, China has built the world's largest high-speed rail network. In terms of aerospace, from Dongfang 1 to Shenzhou 20, there's a chart. In 1970, China's first satellite, Dongfang 1, was successfully launched, and by 2025, the Shenzhou 20 manned spacecraft will be successfully launched to carry on the mission. As for technological innovation, from the early days of academic institutions to mastering advanced skills, there's a chart showing that in 2000, China's first humanoid robot, Pioneer, made its debut. And what about another chart? By 2025, audiences around the world will witness it. Inside the Robotics Expo Hall, you can watch a robot boxing demonstration. And the final part? It's about comparing improvements in daily life. In terms of air quality management, there's a chart showing the shift from being shrouded in smog to enjoying clear skies. In 2013, Tiananmen Square in Beijing was covered in heavy smog. And what about the other chart? By 2025, clear skies in southern Beijing are gradually becoming the norm. In terms of sand prevention and desert control, it's a transformation from desert to oasis. One photo shows staff from the Darien River Basin Authority in Xinjiang patrolling the desert in a pickup truck back in 2010. By 2025, at the Aksu region's experimental base for desert-adapted economic crops in Xinjiang, wheat irrigated with underground water treated by brackish water desalination technology is growing well. As for culture and entertainment, it's gone from a single dominant style to a flourishing diversity. There's a photo showing that in the 1960s, outdoor movies were once one of the few entertainment options for the public. By 2025, Nazar topped the global box office for animated films. In terms of consumer shopping, it went from material shortages to a wide variety of choices. There's a photo of the 100th department store in Shanghai just before the Spring Festival in 1980. By 2025, the Sanlitun Experience store in Beijing is packed with people. As for communications, even public phone booths can go live anytime. There's a photo of a public phone booth in front of Tiananmen Street, Beijing, in 1986. And another photo? That's from 2017, showing villagers in Yuanya Village, Liangzhou City, Sichuan Province, doing a live stream on a steel staircase. Finally, it shows China's role in the United Nations. After restoring its legitimate seat in the UN in 1971, the Chinese delegation attended the 26th UN General Assembly for the first time. Another photo shows Chinese peacekeeping engineers in South Sudan conducting an emergency defense drill in 2023. Through these dozen or so sets of photo comparisons, even the most biased people should be able to see the tremendous achievements China has made in the 76 years since the founding of New China. The National Day in 2025 will be a proud moment for China. After Trump started the global tariff war, only China dared to implement reciprocal countermeasures against the US. I believe historians will conduct more in-depth research on the new pattern of China-US rivalry this year. It will not only leave a mark on the memory of the Chinese people, but even the traditional American elites probably won't forget 2025, when Trump overturned America's image. Especially those Western elites who see the US as a global beacon will feel this deeply. Take Fareed Zakaria, a Washington Post columnist and CNN host in the US, for example. After closely observing a series of diplomatic moves in the China-US rivalry over the past year, he published an analytical article, expressing a heavy sigh, saying that America really needs to get serious now. The reason for this feeling comes from the stark contrast he witnessed at last month's United Nations General Assembly. When US President Trump spoke, he lashed out at other countries, calling them hopeless failures. He even complained that the United Nations hadn't hired him to renovate its headquarters decades ago. And what about China? China, on the other hand, marked the 80th anniversary of the UN's founding by proposing a global governance initiative, advocating for strengthening the multilateral system from multiple dimensions. While the US is becoming increasingly obsessed with protectionism, just last week, China announced that it would no longer seek new special or differential treatment in WTO negotiations. Han Yong, Director General of the Department of WTO Affairs at the Ministry of Commerce, pointed out that this major move by China demonstrates the responsibility of a major developing country. The contrast in trade policies is becoming even more pronounced. The US is imposing highly destructive tariffs on poor countries in Africa and Asia, while China is offering zero-tariff trade treatment to all least developed countries and some middle-income countries with which it has diplomatic relations. This clear contrast made Zakaria strongly agree with a recent commentary in Foreign Affairs magazine, which said that the Chinese government has shifted from a previously passive and defensive stance to a more proactive and strategic posture, leaving both allies and rivals in Washington scrambling to respond. At a time when the US is launching wave after wave of tariff offensives and verbal insults, China is now presenting itself on the international stage as a responsible actor with predictable policies and a consistent stance. Zakaria has always believed that China is the United States' primary economic and geopolitical challenge, but he opposes all-out confrontation or decoupling. Instead, he advocates for responding by enhancing American technological innovation and supply chain resilience, rather than blindly suppressing China. In this article, the veteran foreign affairs commentator emphasizes that now, in both politics and is in a state of confusion, while China, which is ready to prioritize its development path, is rapidly surpassing the United States in various key areas and positioning itself as a global power with constructive influence and the ability to set the agenda. Zakaria points out in the article that technology is the most important area of competition between China and the US, and China has already established an overwhelming lead in several aspects. Bloomberg's tracking of 13 key technologies shows that China is leading in 5 of them, and is hot on the heels in another 7. Especially in the field of green technology, its dominance is already unshakable. Even in the field of artificial intelligence, AI, which the US considers itself to be unmatched, China's momentum should not be underestimated. Zakaria writes that American companies are single-mindedly pursuing artificial general intelligence, AGI. Moreover, most American companies keep their foundational models locked behind proprietary technology barriers, and are more inclined to build closed technology platforms. In contrast, China's AI development path is completely different, placing greater emphasis on promoting the application and widespread adoption of AI at the current technological level, striving to embed AI into every corner of the economy and society. Areas like logistics, security surveillance, urban management, healthcare, drones, and robotics are all covered. This strategy ensures that AI can be rapidly transformed into tangible economic changes and benefits, not only boosting production efficiency but also allowing new technologies to deeply integrate into everyday life. When talking about how Chinese AI companies tend to release open systems, Zakaria pointed out, rather ironically, that nowadays the US is leaning more towards closed ecosystems, while China is actively embracing open technology platforms. These open-source systems are easy to adapt and deploy, which is expected to help Chinese AI become the global standard, especially in developing countries that urgently need low-cost, customizable tools. This, combined with the increasingly obvious dominance of Chinese companies in the sixth-generation field, leads the article to suggest that in the future, the technological interface for most parts of the world could very well be based on Chinese standards, rather than American ones. Zakaria believes that the real strength of China's technology strategy lies in its cross-sector approach. Integration capability. He emphasizes that China is not only building AI models, but also deeply integrating AI with hardware infrastructure and urban development. Take China's ongoing push for the low-altitude economy as an example. In places like Shenzhen and Guangzhou, drone parcel delivery and autonomous flying cars have already become a reality. This kind of advantage comes precisely from the synergy between sensors, AI hardware, and regulatory policies. This collaboration has given rise to transformative technological achievements. In stark contrast to China's proactive advancement, the Trump administration significantly slashed government funding for basic science and technology. Even world-class research universities like Harvard faced intense government suppression. What shocked Zakaria even more was that, during the federal government shutdown, Trump and Defense Secretary Esper gathered several hundred U.S. military generals specifically to draw lines, insisting they needed to stay in shape and fight against woke ideology. Zakaria urges the U.S. to face up to the challenges posed by China. He writes that, for the past decade or so, the U.S. has clung to the belief that China's development has gone off track, using this to comfort itself. That era of self-deception is over. China has already set its course and is now sprinting forward at full speed. After reading this article by the famous CNN host, you can sense the helplessness of the more rational and pragmatic Western elites. In recent years, many U.S. policies have been constrained by domestic electoral politics, with partisan divisions so deep that whichever party comes to power, their policies are short-lived. In contrast, China's strategic goal is clear: peaceful rise. As a veteran diplomatic commentator, Kalia has made an observation that is quite objective and close to reality. The Chinese government has shifted from a previously passive and defensive stance to one that is more proactive and strategic. This marks a new trend in the China-US rivalry. In other words, China will become more direct in expressing its dissatisfaction to the United States, and will implement countermeasures against the suppression from the US or other countries.